Miami Cuban sandwiches.
Oh, wow!
The days in Miami are hot.
This man is dying.
But the nights are even hotter. Because of the club. All of Miami, from the Art Deco buildings in South Beach to the stunning murals of Wynwood to Little Havana, Brickell, Coconut Grove, and everything in between, is bathed in Latin American culture, and that is especially true for the food. In Miami, you got cafecito con pastelitos de guayaba, ropa vieja y picadillo. But their most famous food is without a doubt El Cubano, the Cuban sandwich. For the uninitiated, a Cuban sandwich typically consists of sweet Cuban bread, roasted pork, ham, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard, all assembled, pressed, and grilled into one little piece of heaven right here on Earth. I flew from New York City all the way down to Miami on Spirit Airlines to eat the 5 best and most famous Cuban sandwiches in all of Miami, and I did it all in one day. I also did a little bit of exploring, and I also did a lot of sweating. Hace calor. Stay to the end to hear my favorite Cuban sandwich in all of Miami, and don't forget to tell me why I'm wrong. What are you gonna do? Challenge me to a dance-off in the comments? Enriquetas. That's not really an actual song. I sort of just made it up on the spot. I hope you get a chance to spend some time exploring the artwork of Wynwood on your next trip to Miami. I loved seeing all the different color palettes and the pastels, and they have so much good food and fantastic venues for music and live events. Enriquetas is on the edge of Wynwood and Edgewater, and it's so small and unassuming you might walk past it if you're not careful. Also, they have this Florida placemat. They close every day right after the lunch rush and are closed all day on Sundays, but if you can find a way to get there during opening hours, you can order this. My first Cuban sandwich of the day. Look at it all close up. The bread here was really flaky. You know how when you have a croissant and when it's really flaky, it means it's really good? That's sort of how I felt about my experiences with Cuban bread.
That flaky, buttery bitch.
The rest of the sandwich was really nicely balanced, solidly put together, and I think when I took that first bite, I made some sort of like pleasurable, involuntary noise. It was very embarrassing. Someone looked at me. Downtown Miami. From Enriquetas. I decided to walk through and explore Miami further on foot. In July. After taking public transit all over the world, this was my first time encountering something like Miami's People Mover. But it was free, and it gave me a really pretty view of Miami's downtown before dropping me off at the Riverwalk. It was a short but beautiful walk that reminded me a little bit of Chicago. Sanguiche de Miami. I made my way to Sanguiche de Miami on Calle Ocho in Little Havana. If the name didn't give it away, Little Havana is the heart of Cuba in Miami. You can get Cubanos all over Calle Ocho, and I had 2 from the neighborhood on my list. Sanguiche de Miami boasts the #1 position for Cuban sandwiches on Yelp in the entire city. It's pretty small, so you might run into a longer wait time, but they have a big bar where you can just sit and watch them make sandwich after sandwich after sandwich. This bread is crispy. Their thing is that they place a layer of lard on the bread before they press it. Boy, does that make this sandwich crunchy. For a boy with an appetite for flaky bread, this was maybe not the best. And then the power went out. It was all sunny, and then suddenly, in typical Miami fashion, lights out. Everyone was a little nervous and awkward at first, but then someone made a dumb joke about their sandwich being delayed, and we all laughed really hard out of solidarity. It was actually kind of a really nice and precious moment of human connection, especially because the power thankfully did come back on just about a minute later. Little Havana. So, Little Havana was pretty much flooded after that. Look at how pathetic I look in this video under my umbrella.
Oh, what a loser!
But I kept walking to my next spot because I would really love it if you hit like and subscribe on this video. It goes a long way in getting it out to other people who might need help choosing their favorite sandwich. Hey, look, a kitten! Even though it was flooded, I still got a chance to stop into a little Cuban gift shop and get a taste of Cuban culture. Considering how difficult it can be to actually travel to Cuba itself, this felt really special, and I felt really proud of myself for having a 3-sentence exchange in Spanish with a shopkeeper. Versailles. Versailles is farther west down Calle Ocho, and despite the close proximity, is totally different from Sanguiche de Miami. It's a huge restaurant with multiple rooms and fancy lightings and full service. And even with all the seating and a storm raging outside, I still had to wait about 20 minutes to get a seat. They call themselves the most famous Cuban restaurant in the world, which feels like a bold claim because Miami is not actually in the nation of Cuba. Historically, people have loved this place, and the Cuban sandwich is very famous, but are you ready for a hot take? This was, out of every food item I have tried on this channel to date, the worst thing I have eaten. I mean, you can tell just by looking at this video. It was actually a little bit burnt on top. When it first came out, I thought those were just grill lines, but no, burnt. It tasted burnt.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It was also somehow cold. The cheese wasn't really melted except around the edges. Look how this other sandwich was steaming hot. Versailles was room temperature at best. Now I dug a little deeper to figure out what's going on here, and it seems like I'm not alone in this. Apparently something has changed recently and the food at Versailles is really bad all of a sudden. Even Yelp has stopped displaying the reviews because it needs to audit them in order to figure out what is going on with this restaurant. I also visited their designated cafe on the side of the building where I got a pastelito con guayaba, and that was at least pretty good, but it definitely didn't make up for the atrocity that I ate inside the restaurant. This is actually a grocery store. I was just really sweaty, and so I went inside to cool off with the air conditioning. Here's me pretending to be interested in a box of cereal while I got cool. South Beach. It was after dark by the time I got to South Beach, otherwise I'd show you some very sexy shirtless beach footage.
Need water now!
I did get to explore the boardwalk and see all the neon lit Art Deco buildings, which is a beautiful and absolutely iconic thing to do while you're in Miami. It is absolutely true that most of the restaurants you'll find in South Beach along the boardwalk are tourist traps, but I was surprised to find that two of Miami's best Cuban sandwiches are nearby, albeit in much less flashy restaurants. Las Olas Cafe. I felt at home at Las Olas right away because it immediately reminded me of a New York City bodega. No frills, no decor, small. Las Olas is just a few people behind a deli counter making amazing sandwiches. And yeah, it was really, really good. Please just take a look at the steam coming off of the sandwich. It was hot. The sandwich was hot. The big standout for me here was how the meat was seasoned. I couldn't tell you what seasonings they were using, but the flavors on the inside of the sandwich were much more bold than the other ones I had had. Even a little spicy, I might say. The bread was on the flaky side. They also gave green salsa on the side, which was another fun little twist. Very here for it. Quiero comer muchas más. Puerto Sagua. Watch this. I made my sandwich look like an alligator because of Florida. Also, they had this Florida placemat. My last stop of the day was at Puerto Sagua. Similarly to Las Olas, Puerto Sagua feels very out of place in South Beach. It reminds me of the sort of old-fashioned restaurant you'd find in a small town where the same 10 elderly patrons go every single day. Not a restaurant you'd find in the middle of Hardy Central's South Beach, Miami. I sat at the bar and had a friendly waitress who brought out my sandwich super quickly and even gave me some hot sauce to go along with it. I'm loving the little variances that each spot has on the condiments they provide with their sandwich. Very here for a good sauce. The bread here was thinner than everywhere else, and it made me a little worried that it would be very hard and crispy, but it actually wasn't. The consistency was great. The flavors were nice and the hot sauce was fun, but on the whole it didn't really stand out to me much. I liked it, but I did feel like it was a little forgettable. If I'm choosing between Cuban sandwiches on South Beach, I'm going with Las Olas. Winner! Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
The winner is
Enriqueta's. This one was close, actually. My very first Cuban sandwich of the day, Enriqueta's, is the one that I kept thinking about. The bread was just somehow so much better than all the rest. I can't really explain it. My server was so nice. I loved breaking the no mayo allowed rule. It was lovely to see a business thriving on the merit of its food, not some flashy decor or some unsubstantiated claims to fame. Honorable mention to Las Olas. The seasoning and the green salsa were both delicious and flavorful, and if you're in South Beach and you like your food with a kick, I think you'll really enjoy this one. I'd also like to give an award to Coldest Grocery Store. It was the only grocery store I visited, but it was cold.
Amen.
I found so much beauty in Miami in such a short amount of time. Florida gets plenty of tourism, but if you'd like a genuine taste of some Floridian culture outside of the Orlando theme park scene, Miami has such an original feel and flavor, and it's a whole lot of fun, even if you aren't somebody who's interested in the club scene. What did I miss? Where did I go wrong? What do you think about putting mayo on a Cuban sandwich? Do you know anything about the fall of Versailles? I want to hear it all down in the comments. If you made it this far, I'd love for you to hit subscribe and like so this video can get out to more food friends on the internet. I love you for watching. My name is Josh. Now let's get lost.